Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another Top 10 video. This video was recommended by a few of you near the end of 2017, and I decided that it would be a great video to kick off the new year with. Now, I wanted to put this out sooner, but I have been battling a bad sinus infection, so that's why the channel has been dead for about a week now, but alas, I am back and ready to discuss the top 10 duels of 2017. Now, 2017 was a weird year for duels. We had a 1-month break between Arc-V ending and VRAINS starting, and with all the non-dueling episodes VRAINS has had, 2017 by my calculations only had a total of 19 duels. That's it. That's probably the least amount of duels we have seen in a calendar year. Therefore, some of the duels that make this list for me probably wouldn't make any other lists, but still, this should be a fun one to discuss. Also, since the Zark duel began in 2016, and the Aoi and Spectre duel will end in 2018, those duels will not be eligible. If you want to include either of them for your own lists, that's fine. Honestly, I wasn't a big fan of the Zark duel, so that one wouldn't have made it for me regardless, and at the time of recording, the Spectre Aoi duel is still ongoing, so yeah. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. My top 10 duels of 2017. I hope you guys leave your list down below, and I hope you all enjoy. Coming in at number 10 is a duel that took place in the early stages of VRAINS, and that is Yuusaku Verse Go. This duel barely makes the list for me, and probably only makes this list because of all the wrestling references. I haven't watched WWE in years, but seeing the grapple-style animation between Go's Great Ogre and Yusaku's Decode Talker at the end of the duel really appealed to the wrestling fan in me. The duel was also billed pretty well. You had a character in Go that got some good backstory as we learned that he really wasn't as selfish as it initially seemed he was, and that his motives were all based around making kids smile. Reminds any of you of someone else? Anyway, Go tricks Yuusaku into dueling him by disguising himself as a Knight of Hanoi, and we had the #1 charisma duelist taking on the up-and-coming hero of VRAINS. The billing was good, and while the duel wasn't anything particularly memorable, it still had some cool moments, which again is probably the younger WWE fan resonating within me. The first real duel of VRAINS was pretty enjoyable, and just cracks this list. Coming in at the number 9 spot is another duel from VRAINS, and that is Emma Besso or Ghost Girl's debut against Yuusaku. One thing I really loved about this duel was how intelligent Emma was while she dueled Yuusaku. It was probably the most cautious and calculated opponent Yuusaku has ever faced so far. Seeing her strategy revolve around not letting Yuusaku use his skill, even opting to not attack at one stage in the duel, is something you do not see often in Yugioh. While Emma dominated almost the whole duel, it was all but over for her once Yuusaku was finally able to activate Storm Access. During this storm, we see Emma fall off her board, which leads to one of Yusaku's more human moments, where he goes out of his way to save her life and take Emma out of the storm. That is still one of my favorite Yuusaku moments to this day. He then goes on to defeat Emma using X-Code Talker. The ending was also very thought-provoking, with Emma telling Yuusaku, "Suki Gai Kare," which means the moon is beautiful, but can also mean, "I love you." While these two talking at the end definitely had a mysterious and perhaps very deep emotional connection surrounding them, the duel itself was also very enjoyable, and also the first duel animated by the new director, which definitely showed in how beautiful the scenery and ambiance was, much more so than the first 13 episodes. Emma vs. Yuusaku takes the 9 spot on this list. Next up on this list is the typical main male versus main female duel, and that is Yuusaku vs. Aoi, or Playmaker vs. Blue Angel. This was a duel that a lot of us were hyped to see, ever since both of these characters were first introduced. Almost the sole reason this duel makes the list for me is for the final compelling 5 minutes or so. Blue Angel was recently infiltrated by Spectre, who gave her a virus in which she would basically go insane the second she activated the corrupt card in her deck, and insane she did go. Seeing her go nuts was definitely unexpected given how her persona in Link VRAINS is so upbeat and associated with happiness. She even gave a JoJo reference by shouting Muda 7 times in a row, which was awesome. In the end, Blue Angel ended up collapsing on her board right after tears rolled down her cheek, which was tough to watch, especially seeing her brother Akira just forced to helplessly watch on. Yuusaku delivered the final attack. The ending montage was beautifully depressing as Blue Angel lost her wings in the attack and fell literally and figuratively into a coma that lasted the next few episodes. The ending sequence is one of the saddest in VRAINS to this date, and almost single-handedly because of that makes this list at the 8th spot. Coming in at 7 is our first of a few Arc-V duels on this list, and that is Yuya Saqqaq versus Dennis in episode 144. While the real duel that most of us wanted to see was probably Yugioh versus Dennis uninterrupted, teacher versus student, this was the next best closure duel option for Dennis. While a lot of characters maybe didn't get the closure that most fans wanted them to get, I felt Dennis got treated really well in terms of getting good closure. This was his first and really only appearance after he ended up shockingly taking his own life after his loss to Kaido, and it definitely was a memorable one. The entertainment between two of the greatest entertainment duelists in the show, Yuya and Dennis, was a blast to watch. My favorite part of the duel was when Dennis was on top of Heartland Tower and Yuya used a spell card to ride a rainbow up to him, eventually defeating Dennis using Odd Eye's Pendulum Dragon. Seeing the people of Heartland slowly believe in dueling again and smile after all the hardships and terror they went through during the show was also very nice to see. After Yuya delegated the task of teaching the kids of Heartland entertainment duels to Dennis, it felt like Dennis's character arc had been fully complete. A good closure duel for Dennis, and a good duel in general, taking the 7th spot on this list. Taking the number 6 spot is the master duel between Yuusaku and Revolver. Since these two technically dueled twice, just for clarity, the one making this list is when they were standing up in the middle of the data storm dueling each other between episodes 10 and 12. While there were a lot of potential duels to get excited for, this one was by far the most anticipated matchup in the early stages of VRAINS. Heck, even the rematch that most likely will occur soon is extremely anticipated by the fanbase. After their speed duel ended in a tie, the master duel inside the data storm began. The duel was intense. Revolver's attacks with Varro Load were amazing. Him dropping his visor when the attack was charging up was awesome to see. And while it seemed Revolver was killing off the Cybursts, Yuusaku never lost his connection with the network. After realizing that Eye was not gone, he ended up summoning the awesome and highly awaited Firewall Dragon, the debut of Firewall Dragon. Right before Yuusaku won the duel, he started listing off 3 reasons as to why he was going to defeat Revolver, which clearly shook up Revolver. That was probably my favorite part of the duel because it just solidified the deeper connection that we all suspected between Yuusaku and Revolver. Also, Yuusaku yelling that he's that envoy of revenge, as if Revolver knew exactly what he was referring to, gave me chills. This duel didn't lack intensity or stakes by any means. It would have been higher up had there been a little more back and forth, but Yuusaku ended up winning by attacking Revolver in one big mighty blow, which I felt was kind of a letdown. Still, a really awesome duel, and it takes 6 on my list. Just cracking the top 5 is Naoki, aka Lonely Brave, aka Brave Max, versus a generic Knight of Hanoi. This one had to be on there, you guys knew that. Now this might be one that not many other people have on their list, but honestly, all kidding aside, I absolutely loved this duel. Again, not even from a joke perspective. It's so seldom that we see a character in Yugioh who is not an expert, or at the very least, competent duel, and that is exactly what we got to see in this duel. Between actually reading the card effects, panicking in his sub-thoughts, only to then put on a facade to his opponent and talk about how he has the greatest hand ever, I literally thought I was watching myself play a YGO Pro duel. Another really unique thing this duel did was have both players brick right out of the gate and start with terrible hands. Again, it is such a Yu-Gi-Oh anime trope that the characters almost always start with these amazing hands that can pull off all these crazy combos. It was so refreshing and realistic to see characters actually brick right out of the gate. The humor in this duel I thought was excellent, and it was just one of the most realistic duels I have seen in a long time, maybe ever, honestly. Naoki ended up getting the win, along with a few fans in the process. This one probably won't be enjoyed as much by the competitive hardcore players, but for a noob duelist like me, this was a treat, and takes the 5 spot on this list. Coming in at 4 is the most recent duel on this list, and that is the matchup between Revolver and Emma. There was just something about this duel that I really, really loved. Maybe it was the unexpectedness of it, maybe it was the dynamic between two kind of morally questionable characters. I don't really know, but what I do know is that this duel was really enjoyable. Right when it seemed Emma had Revolver in a corner, Revolver used this crazy powerful trap card, a card at the time of recording this, we still have no idea what that trap is, which wiped out Emma's entire field. failed. Revolver went on to link summon a new Topologic Trisbina, which is one of my favorite designed monsters in VRAINS so far. Revolver uses this new Topologic to finish off Emma and win the duel. Emma then gives Yuusaku her greatest piece of data, warns him of Revolver's deadly strong trap card, and gets turned into data, which sets off the trigger for the Tower of Hanoi showing itself in Link VRAINS. A very enjoyable duel, and it takes the 4th position on this list. Earning the bronze on this list is another Arc-V duel, and that is Yuya vs Shun, which takes place in episode 145. While I know a lot of people found this duel to be a little underwhelming, mainly because it was the 4th final episode of Arc-V, and the whole of the Arc-V ending came under a lot of heat from a lot of fans, I genuinely did enjoy this duel for what it was worth. Maybe it's because Shun was one of the MVPs of Arc-V to me, just a character who effortlessly brought intensity into any scene or duel he took part in, which got me very hyped anytime he took out his duel disc. I also thought the back and forth action between him and Yuya was really good, especially during the final sequence when he kept attacking with his new rank 12 Final Fortress Falcon, and Yuya kept activating the effect of Odd Eye's Lancer Dragon, which kept negating those attacks. Toward the end, it seemed Yuya ran out of ways to stop Shun's attacks, and I actually thought for a split second Shun was going to win. I actually think Shun winning would have been a better way for his character arc to conclude. Shun wins, meaning Yuya never talks to him again, as was the agreement they made before the duel started, and he never shows up at the end of the show, where he becomes a meme for the rest of eternity. But this late into a show, a Yugioh protagonist is never going to lose. Yuya ends up pulling out the win, only managing to do so by 50 life points. Still, this duel was extremely intense, and I thought kind of unpredictable at the end. If I did honorable mentions, this duel would have been an honorable mention in my top 10 Arc-V duels, and deservedly takes the bronze medal on this list. A duel that was pretty high on my top 10 Arc-V duels, and a duel that was the second best duel of 2017, was Yuya vs Reiji in episodes 147 to 148, the ceremonial duel, I guess you could say, of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc-V. This duel had some incredible action between Yuya and Reiji both sparring to get 5 action cards first, to Reiji summoning 3 DDD monsters that are odes to the previous final bosses in Yu-Gi-Oh!, to Yuya summoning so many new awesome-looking dragons. The action in this duel is some of the best action you'll find. The counters are great, the entertainment was solid. While I wasn't really a fan of everything happening around the duel, including the out-of-place U-Boy interaction, which felt a little awkward, I thought the action, music, animation were all A+, and it definitely was a typical Reiji duel. Just like Shun, I found Reiji to be a character that so easily brought intensity and hype into any duel and scene he was a part of. And again, while the ending stretch of Arc-V did a lot of things that disappointed me, I still found this duel to be mouth-watering with all the new monsters and summonings in action. If you filter out the background noise and just watch this duel, it is extremely enjoyable and was the second best duel in my opinion of this year. Well, now it is time for what I thought was the greatest duel in all of 2017, and if you are someone who pays attention to detail, you will have probably noticed a character on the thumbnail that has barely been mentioned to this point. The greatest duel in all of 2017 was Yuusaku Fujiki versus Akira Zaizen, a duel that takes place between episodes 18 and 20. I absolutely loved this duel, mainly because of how much character backstory we learned. From Akira's point of view, he talked to Yuusaku about how his parents died in a car crash, and he was forced to take care of his sister when he was 16 years old, and that he did everything for his sister's happiness. He tried to tell Yuusaku this because he felt he could relate to Yuusaku, but this only enraged Yuusaku, even infuriating the usually cool-headed Kusanagi in what is one of my favorite scenes in VRAINS so far. After we got that great Zaizen backstory dump, we finally got the backstory we had been craving ever since VRAINS began. Yuusaku's. We learned how he was kidnapped when he was 6 years old and tortured as a kid, only able to eat if he performed well in duels. After being rescued 6 months into testing, he went through therapy, but he could never get over the trauma of what had happened to him, which is why he is such a cold and distant person. The deposition we got in this duel was insane, and the duel action was enjoyable as well. I loved Akira trying to desperately yet hopelessly save Yuusaku from himself, almost telling him that he needs to focus on having a regular and normal life and to not let these years go to waste like they did for himself. The dialogue was just incredible and very mature. Literally the only thing missing from this duel was Revolver's perspective. Otherwise, all the important characters were present. While this duel didn't have a shock result as Yuusaku ended up pulling out the win, it was still a joy to watch and gave us some of the more thought-provoking, emotional scenes Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS has to offer. For all the reasons listed, Yuusaku vs Akira was the best duel in 2017. in my opinion. Well, that about wraps it up. Thank you all so much for watching my top 10 best duels of 2017. I cannot wait to discuss this with you all down below, and I especially cannot wait to see some of your lists down below as well. Whether you agreed or disagreed, I genuinely hope you enjoyed. Please feel free to leave any and all top 10 list suggestions down in the comments below. I thank you once again for all the incredible support. I thank you for tuning in, and I hope you have an amazing day and an amazing 2018.